Welcome back, Officers Republics, your course on Honorable Police Chief APGAINS for another episode of APGAINS on business. It's just APGAINS, but I'm not actually here. This is pre-recorded, and I'm flying somewhere to do busy workman stuff and probably crying right now. So I will allow you guys to enjoy this moment of happiness while I am in turn likely, at the time of watching this, immensely unhappy. All right, today's topic is a fairly basic one since this is kind of the month of back to basics, the summer of basics, if you will, where we're talking mostly about only pre-2 million GP stuff for a lot of players. We do tons of endgame guides, tons of mid-game guides, tons of farming guides, tons of strategy, but I want to kind of have a series dedicated to those earlier game players and get you guys caught up. So as far as early game Zetas, what is something that we are looking for in a Zeta in general? In general, you want a Zeta that is going to have a market impact on the way the battle works, whether in general against a specific counter or whatever. And as far as early Zetas are concerned, because very early on, prior to potentially you having the Zeta node unlocked, but more realistically prior to you just having been around long enough to accrue Zetas, you have to be very intentional and very specific with the Zetas that you are applying. There's generally a good sense of what the first couple are going to look like. The first one is obvious, and you guys probably know it. The next couple are, I would say, fairly obvious, but I think maybe kind of have been lost knowledge, if you will, for a lot of players, especially with all the new stuff being added and all of these other directions that new players can go. And then kind of the subsequent ones sometimes depend on the direction you've gone. And sometimes just depend on how the flow of the game has kind of reached you. So as far as the first Zeta that you should apply, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because you guys already know it's Darth Vader's Merciless Massacre. And this is kind of a perfect Zeta to explain the reasoning behind the rest of the Zetas. So forgive me for spending a little bit of time talking about it. We all understand why, but some background, and this will help kind of understand where I'm going with the rest of the first Zetas that you should be applying. Merciless Massacre turns Darth Vader into an particularly not a particularly useful character to a one-man solo max banner undersized GAC dominator. In GAC, and you'll notice this as a theme, the first couple Zetas we want are going to be Zetas on teams that allow us the opportunity to recover banners or win undersized battles without taking any damage whatsoever during the course of the fight, because we are limited in the battles that we can attempt, which means we are limited in the opportunities we have to maximize banners to win GAC, especially now that we live in an era over the last couple of years of money-based matchmaking where your opponents are going to 99% of the time going to be stronger than you as far as total relics, GP, ships, all that stuff. It's very imperative that we kind of follow the Merciless Massacre structure as far as our first Zetas are concerned, because without them, we are going to be putting ourselves at a massive disadvantage as far as GAC is concerned. So we kind of get the golden picture, the golden ticket, the idealized version of what an early game Zeta is going to be in the Merciless Massacre Zeta. It's allowing us to win with either out taking any damage, allowing us to recover, and especially if we can do so undersized, because undersized leads to more banners. Now, the very next Zeta that you guys should be applying is maybe controversial. I would argue lost knowledge. In a very similar vein, it can go one of a couple of ways, and I'll give you kind of a couple different paths that you can go down, because I understand that, yes, following, step 1 to step 1 bajillion from the perfect free-to-play farming guide, like obviously you're going to min-max, you're going to be as efficient as humanly possible, but I understand that 99.999% of players who are watching these videos have already established an account of some kind and are kind of retroactively fixing certain things and trying to improve their processes and all that good stuff. So if you've gone down different branches, I'll give you different opportunities to kind of capitalize on the next couple of Zetas, so you don't feel left out and feel like, oh my god, I have to restart an account because I didn't do this one very specific thing. So the next potential second Zeta, which I would argue is pretty fair, is the Boss Leadership Zeta, for a very similar reason. I'm not going to spend too much time on these Zetas. It's an early team that you should be farming. It allows you to underman. It especially allows you to recover and finish with those coveted underman max banners, right? Underman max banners is literally the best banners that you can get. Same thing with Vader, same thing with Bosk. It allows recovery, which is one of those options we talked about. If you can't win without taking damage, at least give yourself an opportunity to recover. I would say that in a traditional brand new account, a very good Zeta to have. Now, conversely, on the opposite end, that's more of a reflexive kind of recover defensive Zeta, and not defensive in the sense that you throw it on defense, because then banners don't matter, but I mean it's more reactionary. Something that's incredibly controversial could be one of Piet's Zetas. I honestly think it's Emperor's Trap. I could be mistaken. Begins to turn, attacks out turn. So yeah, so Emperor's Trap appears to be the one that allows Dark Trooper to punchy. This is kind of the opposite of Bosk. This is all about defense and recovery and finishing off with max banners. Piet's something that's become a lot more popular in early game farms with the Imperial Troopers, who are probably the best auxiliary team in the game, allowing you to, instead of recover those banners, prevent the loss of banners from happening, because you're going to build turn meter with Veers and the rest of the Imperial Troopers and Dark Trooper especially doing big punchy stuff. So you're going to finish, same thing, with undersized max banners, leading to the best possible outcome. Now, these are very conflicting in that these are played differently, but very, very, very similar teams. I would say that these teams, like, it's been my long-standing belief that these two teams are identical as far as what they offer you. They accomplish the goal of winning by just pure offense and finishing with max banners, because they do have recovery as far as, you know, everything is concerned. But they essentially do the exact same thing. They go really fast, they kill shit super quickly, and they finish with some good banners. So either direction that you happen to go, definitely not a problem there. Similarly, another place that you could go with an early Zeta, and maybe this is not going to be your second Zeta, obviously. We'll talk about some Zetas that could come before it, but this is probably a candidate for one of the ironclad must top 5 Zetas as far as early game Zetas are concerned. It's going to be Chewbacca. Different from Bosk, different from Piet, but still kind of in the same vein of these undersized max banners. It allows you to recover health and protection when he attacks out of turn. He's going to be attacking out of turn a lot, and especially with an AoE, like he's gonna do some good health and recovery. Same thing, your CLS Han Chewbacca squad. You throw in a 3PO and Chewie, who's become a lot more prevalent in recent years. You're gonna have undersized max banners. It's gonna be fantastic. Now let's go to a defensive side, because we can't just only talk about offensive Zetas. Eventually, you do have to Zeta some defensive teams. Let's actually, I don't think this squad exists in my GAC, so we'll go here. One of these Zetas is probably going to be in the top 5, top 10 area. I would argue that Jedi Knight Anakin plus a double Padme Zeta plus probably a GK Zeta all should be applied in the top 10 to 15 Zetas that you're applying to your account, simply because this is a stalwart team. It's strong. It gives you offensive, defensive flexibility outside of your first couple grand arenas where you're only going to need 3 teams. Obviously, it leads you in the direction of gas, which is always nice, but it's going to give you staying power. It's going to give you flexibility, right? These are more flexible Zetas. These are more discretionary Zetas, as opposed to the probably first, second, third Zetas that we talked about earlier, which are all about maximizing the offensive. This is more about maximizing what we can do as far as flexibility, and especially leaning in the defensive area. Other early Zetas, depending on the route you go, these are going to be different, because they're going to kind of come as a string, and you'll kind of understand what I mean by that. Traya, of course, the second you get Traya, you should Zeta Traya. I've always, for the longest time, said what's the most valuable Zeta? It's the Zeta that you have when you unlock Darth Traya. Please, I swear to God, please. I do so many roster views, and perfect time, plug, join the Patreon, you get roster views. New patrons and existing patrons, please message me on Patreon, and let me know what kind of stuff you want to be added to the Patreon as far as content, perks, all that stuff to make it worth your time, and to keep you there. And then, of course, all patrons who are supporting, we're going to take that money, we're going to go fly out probably end of August, early September, and go do some IRL collaborations with the Grand Admiral, with Arnold, and every single person who's an active Patreon member when we're out there is going to get a shout out during that video with or live stream or wherever we do it with the Grand Admiral. So make sure to help support that. But that being said, I see a lot of Treyas without Zetas. You're probably not going to have Traya in your top 10 because she takes a while to collect, but definitely a valuable Zeta. Where am I Where am I going? Where are my boys? Okay, well, here's the pseudo Darth Revan team. Obviously, Malgus is in here. You're not gonna have Malgus, so we're gonna talk about Revans to kind of round out the top 5, top 10. Because if you go Darth Revan first, which I have always done on all of my accounts, the main account, all the subsequent free-to-play accounts, I just like it better. Does it really matter which Revan you go for first? No, it doesn't really. If you buy Hyperdrive, you go Jedi Knight Revan first because they give you basically half of his requirements for free at 5 stars. I've just always gone Darth Revan first because I enjoy the team better. It's stronger. It's much stronger. It gives you more flexibility, offensive, defensively. Absolute stalwart on defense. But it doesn't really matter. So if you go the Darth Revan route, I mean, you're going to apply some Zetas to Darth Revan. You're going to apply some Zetas to Bastila Fallen. If you go the Jedi Knight Revan route, who's stuck on this JML squad, you're going to apply some Zetas to him. You're going to apply the Zeta to Jolie. Please do not apply the Zeta to Bastila leadership ability. I swear to God, I cannot count. Even like prior to so many changes that have come to the game, it has just never been a good idea to apply that Zeta. Please don't do it. Yoda has probably an arguably top 10 to 15 Zeta, not his leadership, obviously, but the one that allows him to pass all of the foresight and all that other stuff. Fantastic Zeta. If you have an early Omicron, you can slap it on Qui-Gon to get that Qui-Gon Omicron up and running. There are plenty of opportunities for you to kind of adapt where you are in the game and distribute that to the characters that you have as far as your early Zetas are concerned. Grievous, if you have a Grievous, Metalloid Monstrosity, I believe, is the one that allows him to AoE basically every time someone dies. Fantastic Zeta. Is it top 10? Probably not. Is it top 15? I would argue it is. Geonosian Brood Alpha should probably be a top 10 Zeta simply because it is a powerful early game STD team. Allows you some defensive viability. It's not really, I mean, the Geos haven't been good for maybe 5 years or since, Geonosian Brood Alpha came out. But what they do allow you to do is kind of 1 in 10 battles, you're going to play a brain dead idiot who can't beat Geos for whatever reason. And it's kind of nice for that scenario. But other than that, it doesn't really come into use that much. So these are some options for these first couple Zetas that you can apply. This has been an episode of AP Gains on Business at night, where it's just AP Gains, but it's harder to see me, and I'm also not here. So wish me luck. I will see you guys in like a week. Bye-bye.